Yeah.
While Dabo Swinney is credited for building the Clemson dynasty, Brent Venables deserves just as much credit. Arguably the best defensive mind in the game, Clemson posted 9 straight top 25 defenses under Venables' leadership, and Venables as defensive coordinator helped Clemson win 2 national championships and 4 appearances with the Tigers. He now looks to take that success and that style of play back to Norman, Oklahoma, where his career really took off. So guys, welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, taking a look at Oklahoma's hire of Brent Venables. And we are here, guys, like we always are, to break down what to expect from this hire, our official grade for this hire, and how the Sooners might do in 2022. And you know, it only feels appropriate to be talking about Oklahoma today, since yesterday we talked about Lincoln Riley and USC. Riley, of course, the coach that left Oklahoma, the only reason that Venables is in Norman right now. So guys, before we get started, as always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and again, check out everything down in the description below. If you like this content, guys, make sure to subscribe, make sure to hit that like button. Something that takes just a few seconds can help us out tremendously, and we're going to have more content just like this coming your way over the next few weeks as we break down the rest of the coaching carousel and then dive right in to our next offseason topic. So we take a look at Brent Venables, guys, and before we do that, let's take a look at the Oklahoma program as a whole. Dealing with a brand new head coach is pretty unfamiliar territory for the Sooners. Brent Venables is just the 7th head coach for Oklahoma since 1973. He's only the 3rd head coach for Oklahoma since 1999. Of course, you had Bob Stoops, Lincoln Riley, and now Brent Venables. And you know, Lincoln Riley's departure from Oklahoma to USC was a major shock and left a very bad taste in Oklahoma's mouth. And obviously something, they all have a lot of hostility towards Lincoln Riley right now out in LA. But Oklahoma, in the hiring process, knew that they needed to get someone that would not only energize the fan base, keep them energized, but someone who knew the region, someone who knew the culture at Oklahoma, and someone who could help them continue to play and compete at a national championship level, especially with Oklahoma transitioning to the SEC here in the next few years. So in comes Brent Venables, the perfect fit for everything that Oklahoma wanted and needed. Because many of you may not remember, Oklahoma actually had Brent Venables as their defensive coordinator from 1999 to 2011. So for 12 years, Venables was coaching the defense under Bob Stoops. Some phenomenal years under Bob Stoops during his time at Oklahoma. During the time in Norman, Venables had 9 top 20 scoring defenses with the Sooners. 5 of those were actually in the top 10. So he never let up. You know, his defenses at Oklahoma were very similar to those during his time at Clemson. That style of play and the type of numbers he was posting, very, very similar. Never really had a bad unit during his time in Norman, nor during his time with the Tigers. Venables then went on to Clemson in 2012 and served as defensive coordinator there under Dabo Swinney. He won 2 national championships, as we mentioned, had 9 top 25 defenses. The only exception was his first year, where the Tigers posted a 48th ranked defense. But the Tigers did have the number 1 scoring defense in the country in 2018, which ultimately was a national championship winning year for Dabo Swinney, Brent Venables, and the Tigers. So you look at the outlook for 2022. You know, Lincoln Riley stole a lot of people from Oklahoma. He ended up taking Caleb Williams and Mario Williams and so many people away from Oklahoma. And even if he didn't take him over to USC, other players transferred out, such as the 5-star wide receiver from Jaden Hazelwood, who ultimately transferred to Arkansas. So Lincoln Riley left the cupboard pretty bare for Oklahoma. But the situation is not as dire as it seems. When you look at the Sooners as a whole, there's still a lot of potential there and a lot of talent there that's going to make Oklahoma still a contender in the Big 12 this season and a team that could find themselves back in the college football playoff. Mainly, guys, the reason for this is the quarterback. Everybody panicked when Spencer Rattler transferred to South Carolina and then Caleb Williams decided to follow Lincoln Riley to USC. But Dillon Gabriel, the former UCF quarterback, is in at quarterback for Oklahoma, and that is huge. This is a phenomenal pickup for Brent Venables and the Sooners. Dillon Gabriel, he got hurt last season, but in 2020 threw for over 3,500 yards, 32 touchdowns to just 4 interceptions. He's got an unbelievable arm. He's putting up phenomenal numbers, and he takes great care of the football. Yes, we know they lost a handful of other pieces on offense. Yes, we know they lost some key pieces on defense, both to graduation and to transfers. But there's a lot of young talent, especially on that defensive side of the ball, especially at the linebacking core and back in that secondary, that makes this defense really looking like one that could make some noise in the Big 12 this year, especially under the leadership of Venables, who, as we mentioned, is arguably the best defensive mind in the game right now. Factor in that Brent Venables did a phenomenal job of picking up coordinators in Jeff Lebby from Ole Miss as his offensive coordinator, something that I think is going to be a perfect match with him and Dillon Gabriel. Also bringing in Ted Roof and Todd Bates from Clemson to serve as defensive coordinators. Todd Bates coaching the number 2 defensive line in the country last year during his time at Clemson. The staff is in place for Oklahoma to really pick up right where they left off. For the last few years, the Sooners have been Big 12 title contenders. They have been college football playoff contenders. I don't think there's going to be much of a drop-off from the Sooners now. Even though they didn't win the Big 12 last year, even though they didn't even make the Big 12 championship last year, Brent Venables has the staff and the talent in place to make sure they are going to be right back in the mix. Not just for a conference title, but again, for that playoff spot as well. And when you look at the schedule, guys, again, it looks very favorable for Oklahoma to not only get back to that Big 12 championship after missing out for the first time in, 7 years, but also to make sure they have a shot at the national championship, at the college football playoff. You look at the schedule. Nebraska, early on in the year, on the road, that's going to be an intriguing game. I think that's going to really give Oklahoma fans and really everybody in the country a good look at what this Brent Venables team is made of. You know, the first two, what we would say, cupcake opponents, Oklahoma should win. But that's not going to be a true test. This will be a true test against a Nebraska team that should show improvement, especially in a hostile environment in Lincoln, for Oklahoma to go in there and for all of us to see what Brent Venables is all about. But the Sooners outside of that in conference play, they host Baylor, the reigning Big 12 conference champions, the Sugar Bowl champions. They host Oklahoma State. The Sooners fell to Oklahoma State in last year's Bedlam, the season finale. There's a very good chance that Oklahoma could be 5-0 going into that Red River showdown against Texas. And, of course, that's always when things get interesting for both teams, for Texas and Oklahoma, really setting the tone for the rest of the season. So, guys, this Brent Venables hire is one for us that we are going to give an A+. And I know people are going to be shocked to say, wow, Lincoln Riley gets an A+ yesterday, Brent Venables gets an A+ today, or we're going to give a grade lower than that. And I can promise you we will. But how can you not give this guy the top grade possible? Because for years, as a coordinator for Oklahoma and for coordinator for Clemson, Brent Venables was constantly getting tossed around as a potential head coaching candidate at multiple schools. But he kept waiting for the right fit. He could have taken a job in the SEC. Technically, he already has now with Oklahoma moving soon. But he could have taken a job there. He could have taken a job at any other program, but he decided to wait it out as DC at Clemson. He wanted to wait for the right opportunity. And this was the right opportunity. The best defensive mind in college football resides in Norman, Oklahoma. A guy who knows the culture there, who spent 12 years there as defensive coordinator. He knows what it takes to win in the Big 12, knows what it takes to win at Oklahoma, understands the passion and the enthusiasm behind the Sooners, knows that the defense will be needed not just to win the Big 12, but certainly will be needed to win the SEC. And I believe Brent Venables has all the pieces together on top of his passion and energy that he brings every single day. Watch him on the sideline at Clemson and watch what he's going to do now in Norman. This is a phenomenal hire for Oklahoma, and the Sooners will be back in that Big 12 title hunt. They will be back for that college football playoff hunt, not just for the remainder of their time in the Big 12, but certainly once they move on to the SEC as well. A+ hire for Oklahoma and the Sooners. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. Leave your comments below. What do you think of the Brent Venables hire at Oklahoma? What should his grade really be? We want to hear from you. But as always, guys, we want to thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned tomorrow for our next head coaching breakdown. I promise it's going to be one that you do not want to miss. So thank you all so much again, and we will see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.